We talked about like those barriers to purchase. People are willing, but if you hit that cart and there's some sort of hiccup, people are kind of on the edge. And if you make that easy for them throughout the purchase, they're more likely to convert.
Hello, and welcome to The Marketing Architects, a research-first podcast dedicated to answering your toughest marketing questions. I'm Elena Hingle. I run the marketing team here at Marketing Architects, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Angela Voss, our CEO, and Rob DeMars, our Chief Product Architect.
Howdy.
Hello.
And we're joined by Kyle Lewis, our Strategy Director at Marketing Architects.
I want to trade glasses with you. Those are sweet glasses.
Kyle always has awesome glasses.
Thank you, Kyle, for joining us with your cool glasses. We are back with our thoughts on some recent marketing news, always trying to root our opinions in data, research, and what drives business results. We've brought Kyle on the show to help cover our topic, which is 2023 holiday trends. How are marketers and consumers feeling, and what should you keep in mind as we make our way through the holidays? Now, you might be thinking, it's November, isn't it a little late for holiday planning? Well, yes, it probably should be, but I think the research Kyle is going to share today has some information that I haven't seen widely publicized in the marketing community. Plus, it does have implications for the very end of this year and the beginning of next year, so it should be relevant. But let me tee us up, as usual, with an article. This one is from Alicia Wallace for CNN Business, and it has a pretty fun title. After a summer of Barbenheimer and Beyonce, can U.S. consumers still afford the holiday season? The article starts off by recapping this past summer, saying ballpark attendance boomed, Barbenheimer revived the box office, and a renaissance of live performances brought concerts into a new era. And that is a wink to Taylor Swift's Eras Tour, if you haven't been bombarded with that enough. Which is a fun way of saying that consumer spending remained strong this year despite rising inflation and interest rates. However, economists are predicting this confidence to buckle during a critical holiday season. Rationally, we might expect some sort of a pullback, but there's also conflicting signs from consumers. People are still spending aggressively on experiences like travel, dining, concerts, and sporting events. This is not a normal time. There's pent-up demand from the pandemic, and consumers are still seeking experiences that they missed out on the past few years. Some surveys actually indicate that spending will not only be higher than last year, but it could be even higher than pre-pandemic levels. The economic data is better than expected, but there's more canaries in the coal mine, as Ted Rossman, a Bankrate analyst, puts it. He said there's less wiggle room in average budgets, credit card delinquencies are rising, and subprime auto delinquencies are worse now than they were in 2007 to 2009. So we're definitely dealing with some conflicting data, and we appear to be in yet another unusual time. But Kyle Lewis is no stranger to helping marketers navigate through uncertainty. That's part of his job as a member of our strategy team. And that team recently put together some lovely research to help our clients craft compelling messages and invest wisely in marketing this holiday season. But Kyle, the past helps us predict the future, so I actually thought we could start by talking about what happened last holiday season. So what did we expect to happen last year, and what did we actually experience?
No strangers to conflicting data, especially over the past like 4 or 5 years. It has been kind of insane how we are looking at so many different things and saying like, oh, this is what should happen or would happen, and maybe it doesn't, or maybe we're trying to think, what could be. And last year was an exception to that for sure. We had a few different anomalies happening. We were coming out of the pandemic, which brought its own things. We had a year of rapid inflation that we were dealing with, and retailers just had an excess of inventory that they needed to get rid of, which was weird because the past couple of years, what we were dealing with was you couldn't get anything. The shelves were empty. So it was completely different. And we're like, what's going to happen? And so what we thought we'd see is an extended shopping period, that retailers would lengthen their sales to try and entice buyers starting early and then even post-holiday to try and wrap up everything else that they might still have in stock. And along with that, you brought up this pent-up demand from pandemic. This was really the first holiday season since the pandemic. So it had been a few years for a lot of people to be around their families, be out doing the things that they normally enjoy. And so what we were anticipating were people to go all out for the holiday season, being like, I'm going to do it all. I'm going to go to the Nutcracker. I'm going to travel to see family. I'm going to go to the zoo lights. I'm going to do all of these things that I've been missing out on because we've grown to expect uncertainty and not sure what's going to happen next year. Is the pandemic going to be back? Is there going to be something else? And we want to take full advantage of it. So that's kind of what we were expecting to see. Along with that, they were anticipating 4 to 6% retail sales growth from the previous year, last year. What we actually ended up seeing was over 7% retail growth. So last year we outdid expectations, and it really backed up that thought that people were going to go all out. People were going to make it happen. Some of that sales growth was due to inflation, of course, but I think the core of it was people still make the holidays happen despite what's happening around them.
So that's last year. How about this year? What are you predicting?
Yeah, so again, as you brought up, some weird things happening this year. Part of last year, why people were willing to go all in was a bit of optimism bias. People were expecting things to be good in 2023. It was like, hey, finally things are coming out of the pandemic. Things are getting back to, quote, normal. Student loans are being forgiven. I've got all this money in my pocket. Unemployment's down. All these things that were signs of 2023 is going to be a great year. What we've seen this past year was arguably not great for a lot of people as far as student loan repayments starting just last month or this month. A lot of the pandemic era aid from the government ended, and we're starting to see the effects of that. Child poverty is up. So you're seeing all these things that are kind of weighing on our sentiment and our outlook financially and just in general. And so that's what we were conflicting with is what does this mean for the holidays? People's budgets are really tight. But what we learned from last year is people make it happen. Holidays are a time where people kind of act irrationally. They want an escape from the chaos that's happening around them. And for the most part, a lot of people are like, all this stuff is happening around me. But for me personally, I'm doing all right. So I'm going to cautiously see what I can do to make it happen. And so what we're seeing reported in surveys is about 3/4 of Americans expecting to spend the same or more than they did last year. So that intent is definitely there. And I think it's interesting. You brought up the CNN article and they talk about, can we afford this holiday season? I think of the word afford or affordable and what does that mean? Is that real money that I have in my bank account? How much debt am I willing to take on? People are going to be, still spending, even if that means extending their debt. So when we look at sales growth, the anticipation that we're seeing is around 4% over last year. A lot of that, again, driven by inflation. So adjusted for inflation, about 1% sales growth from the previous year. So we're still growing. People are still willing to spend, but it's more in line with what you would have seen before the pandemic, what we saw from 2019.
That's interesting, Kyle. The same behavior we saw in the summer where you have like economic reality and then you have how consumers are acting. They're going to the Eras Tour. They're seeing Beyonce. They're spending money, despite what's happening around them. I also heard on a podcast the other day that when you ask people how they think the economy is doing, they respond very negatively. But when you ask them how personally they're doing, it's more positive. So I can see why it's hard to predict because there's this disconnect a little bit.
Yeah.
I mentioned at the start of this episode that this is going to be a November episode. However, if you were kicking off your holiday marketing now, you'd be really behind and more behind than even in previous years. So Kyle, what can you tell us about this extended shopping season?
Well, if you're talking about behind on the season, I think you've already missed me. I am an early shopper, so I started shopping in July.
Oh my gosh.
I know everybody's different.
Dang.
Yeah, I've already wrapped a lot of the gifts. They're already hidden. Best way to hide a gift is by wrapping it early. But taking that bias out, what if I said that by the end of October, you could expect over half of Americans shopping over any 2-day period of time, and that a third of their holiday shopping is already done? What does that make you think of, Angela? I saw you shaking your head.
It makes me feel like I'm really behind because I haven't bought one gift yet.
Clearly, my house didn't take that survey.
We got some procrastinators on the call and then one pre-planner.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's a big number. And I think that's a huge opportunity for marketers and retailers to think about. If you're just now thinking about the holidays or just now putting those plans into place, you've missed out on a big opportunity. It doesn't necessarily mean that you need to start Black Friday sale in September or whatever. That's not necessarily what we're saying, but it's like, how are you thinking about your consumer and what their
Mhm.
mindset is in September, October, when their holiday shopping has started?
You're right, Kyle. Even though we haven't started our shopping yet, I do feel there's less focus and a craziness around Black Friday and Cyber Monday than there used to be. I definitely feel that for sure. Just it's bled right into its
Yeah,
surrounding weeks.
yeah, this isn't necessarily new that it has been extending. It's been happening for a while. And earlier on, I think it was little micro changes, right? Like stores open at 6 a.m. Well, now Walmart is starting to open at 5 a.m. Okay, well, now Target's going to open at midnight on Thanksgiving. And now we're going to be open on Thanksgiving. And so it just kind of creeped. And then it really started in the pandemic when shelves were empty and people were like, hey, I need to start ordering early so that it's in stock. And then flip the next year, it's like we've got too much stock and now I'm shopping early because retailers are trying to dump it. And so those external factors have kind of made it extend. What I love seeing this year is how some retailers have been making it unique. It's no longer just a copy paste of like, okay, well, I'm going to do my Black Friday deals. I'm going to bump it up to the first week of November and just do the same deals. They're thinking about how can I do this interesting. I don't know if you've seen Walmart recently. I think it was just a couple of days ago, their Mean Girls crossover that they've done, and they're doing this whole on Wednesdays we do deals. So every Wednesday they're doing new Black Friday deals through
Yeah.
November. So it's a different spin on it, and it's super cool and obviously speaks to millennials and our obsession with Mean Girl for sure, but it's kind of cool how retailers are reacting to it.
Kyle, speaking of the longer holiday season, one of my favorite parts of the data that you shared was the details about shopping behavior and how that changes throughout the season. You have the deliberate phase, deal seeking, determined, and devoted. Could you walk
Yeah.
us through how consumers change?
Yeah, sure. And I think the past couple of years when we talked about that season coming early, and maybe some retailers might have felt defeated or disappointed that it's like, wait, why did I see this spike in sales in October? If you're saying the sales period is extended, Google and Ipsos did a really interesting study last year to look at what are the actual behaviors that are happening through the holiday season as we extend it out. If we're not seeing that spike in sales necessarily. So what they find is there's different mindsets of the consumer and then behavior of how they shop throughout the year. And so you brought up the deliberate, the deal seeking, determined, and the devoted. And so right now we're still kind of in that deliberate phase from September to October, maybe early November. And this is really focused on gathering information, planning for the holiday season, setting budgets. They're having experiences with the brands with the mindset of the holidays in front of them. Like that is what they are actively thinking about, and they're interacting with you. They might not be making the purchase, but how are we thinking about that customer? How are we giving them the experience that they are looking for during that time? And how are we measuring success and seeing, hey, look, we're getting these people to our website, our social channels. That is them in their holiday shopping, and then set us up for success when they are ready to buy. And so that's really kind of the focus of where we are right now. Then once we get into late November, then we're starting to see the deal seeking. Those are the people going after the sales. I've already determined that I want this. Once I see it come on sale, I'm going to push the button. So whatever retailer is offering it for the best price, free shipping, best return policy, they're going to make that choice. They're in a buyer's mindset. Then you switch to the more determined shopper. Rob, Angela, you haven't started your holiday shopping. Maybe this is you. This is the last minute person. They're like, hey, maybe my stuff didn't come on sale, or hey, I need to fill these gaps in, these people. I am ready to buy whether it's on sale or not. This is a big revenue opportunity because these people are actively buying, but maybe not looking for basement prices. We also see people using buy now, pay later during this phase. Maybe their budgets are stretched a bit from the deal shopping and they're looking at their wallet and they're like, I can't make it. But, buy now, pay later, it's there in the cart. It makes it easy. I can complete my deal shopping. And then lastly, as Elena mentioned, was devoted. And this is kind of after Christmas, after the main holidays. These are people that are shoppers and they're picking up those last minute deals. They're like, there's this inventory, there's retailers enticing people back into the stores after that big period. And they're kind of picking up on all those deals and then shopping and gifting for themselves too. That is something that we probably shouldn't ignore, is the growth in people that are buying holiday gifts for themselves, not just family members.
Kyle, this is awesome. I'm going to start calling you Kyle Stradamus here. I'm wondering if I'm a marketer trying to resonate with consumers this holiday season, what type of emotions do you think I should be tapping?
Yeah, and I think it's exactly what Elena brought up earlier with Barbenheimer and Barbie and the Eras Tour and everything. We're really gravitating to things that make us feel again, things that connect us to each other as humans and really kind of those experiences. So when you're thinking about gift giving and what people are maybe looking to give others, that's what they're trying to give out. Like, hey, I want people to feel that connection with me. When I'm giving something, I want somebody to think, hey, they thought about me. This is something that helps me feel like I'm not alone, or that helps me deal with stress or anxiety that I'm dealing with everything else going on around me. There's also kind of this undercurrent trend of intentional gifting that's been happening for a while. And I think that's definitely here now. People are thinking, if I'm buying a gift for somebody, I want it to mean something and I want it to be of value to them. It's not just a, hey, I need to get somebody a gift. Here's a candle that smells good. I'm going to give it to them. It's this person misses their hometown. I'm going to get one of those candles that smells like their hometown. It's a different way of thinking about how I'm gifting. It's more intentional. It has meaning and it connects us to the people around us. So I think tapping into that presents a huge opportunity for brands in that space like Uncommon Goods, see local retailers, etc.
Kyle, speaking of experiences, another part of your research talked about the customer experience and what marketers can do. So what do you think marketers should be aware of when it comes to a customer experience expectation this holiday season?
Yeah, I think that's another huge thing. We talked about like those barriers to purchase. People are willing, but if you hit that cart and there's some sort of hiccup, people are kind of on the edge. And if you make that easy for them throughout the purchase, they're more likely to convert. There are some things that have become basically standard must-haves. Free shipping, when you looked at multiple surveys, it's like, how important is free shipping when you're buying online? And it's like over 90% usually. It's like, that is a mandatory that you must have. Policies is another thing that, interestingly, people are more conscious of now for a few reasons. So if I buy something and then I realize, like, wait, no, I couldn't afford that, or it's not going to work in my budget, or maybe I just found a better price somewhere else, or whatever that reason is, people are scrutinizing those details a lot more this year. And then lastly, buy now, pay later. We saw a big jump in the usage of buy now, pay later programs last year. And we're expecting to see the same this year, especially that week leading up to Christmas, as people are starting to kind of realize, like, my budget's wearing thin. I need that little help. And that right there at the checkout can really help a consumer's anxiety when making a purchase.
Certainly, when I think about COVID and the fact that we were all shopping online instead of in stores, and you had all these brands desperately trying to continue to drive sales, offering free shipping, having easy return, definitely feels like there was a macro shift in terms of consumer expectations that's sort of hard to walk back from, right? We're in a very now world. I'm going to order something on Amazon and have it in a couple of hours in some cases. So I can see how that just trickles right into the holiday season. So then, Kyle, as we think about heading into 2024, what do you feel marketers can do this holiday season to set them up well for next year?
I think first, just what we talked about, making it simple, making the process easy for them is going to buy you a lot of goodwill with your customer. They remember those experiences and it'll take them into 2024. And remember, these people are overburdened for this whole year. And with holiday shopping, as simple as they're trying to make it, but also make it still a great experience, mounting debt in the financial situation is going to create a lot of stress and maybe chaos. And anything that we can do to make it easier for them will make it easier when we look at that first quarter of 2024. A big reason is we're expecting a little bit of a lag from this holiday shopping. Credit card delinquency up. People are stretching their budgets with student loan repayments. Their budgets are really thin, and now possibly extra debt from the holiday shopping season. Quarter one could be tough for retailers and consumers as they're considering what are they going to purchase. And if we're making those decisions today to make it easy for them. It might make it easier for them to come back to us and continue to spend money in quarter one and feel better about that. And then the last thing I would say is make sure you've got a strong, smart measurement strategy. I mean, you're probably collecting that data now anyways. Put it in place. Learn about your consumer this holiday season. What are they doing? Where are they converting? Where are they following off at? And, timeline that through the holiday season, and then adjust your 2024 plans for your holiday shopping next year to align with that. This extended shopping season doesn't seem to go away. It's becoming the norm, as you said, Angela. Like sometimes things just kind of stick around. So now how do we adjust our messaging strategy, what we offer, what we measure in 2024 to set us up for success next holiday season?
Thank you, Kyle. Super great things for us to keep in mind this year and going into next year. I was thinking about how we could close out this episode, and we talked about some, hard things with the economy, and it's not all positive, but one thing that is positive are children's toys. And so I thought we could share our own holiday marketing experience. We help clients through the holidays each year, but we also used to sell our own products. And I wanted to ask you, what was it like when we were advertising a children's toy during the holidays?
Oh my goodness, so fun. But I think also anyone that has the experience of potentially making their entire year from a sales standpoint in about 2.5 weeks understands how crazy this can be as well. But to your point, for several years, in addition to being the agency that we were also in the product development business, and we created, marketed, fulfilled, shipped our own products. And of course, we had partners to help us out with that. But one of our most successful products was Stuffies, which was a stuffed animal with 7 secret pockets, a child's toy, as Elena describes. And we didn't just create the stuffy animals, but we also had a series of books as well. Each had a story that connected a Stuffies character to a great life lesson for the child, all sort of focused around this idea that it's what's inside that counts, just given the fact that it was a stuffed animal with secret pockets. We developed a jingle that got extremely catchy, went viral.
How much stuff can you stuff in a stuffy till your stuffy's stuffed enough stuff?
Yes. So one of those that's definitely going to get a little stuck in your head. So
some people were just very annoyed by that.
Yes, we did have some. But it ended up on the Tonight Show with Jay Leno. Gosh, he had guests, Rob, do you remember? Jim Parsons, and what's that girl's name?
Yep.
Maggie Elizabeth Jones, I think. And they sang the jingle while they were on the show. And so it just sort of became widely popular. And then during the holidays of, I want to say it was 2012, it just absolutely exploded. We were selling so many Stuffies that we ended up receiving a call from our fulfillment center telling us, like, I'm so sorry. Like, we don't have the staff or the operations to fulfill on all of these orders that have come in so quickly. And we're not going to be able to ship them all out by Christmas. So our CEO then at the time, Chuck Hengel, he's a dad. And of course, that didn't sit well on a variety of levels. Not only are we not delivering in the window that we had promised, but also there would be thousands of kids that were missing a Christmas present. And it just happened to be that this call came in on the day that would have been our holiday party. And so we had some tough decisions to make. Should we really be partying it up while we're not delivering on the orders that have come through? And so ultimately he ended up making the tough call to cancel the holiday party in favor of a Stuffies packing and shipping party. And all 100 or so of us traded our cocktail dresses and suits for hard hats and gloves. And we drove out to the fulfillment center and packed and shipped until we were all caught up. And honestly, it was sort of the best holiday party ever. I think we might have not been the greatest like OSHA compliant team that we could have been, but we certainly had fun and felt really great about very happy kiddos with their Stuffies. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I love that story, Ange. It actually connects well to the idea of this holiday being a moving target and things changing. The company had to adapt to that. But luckily, marketers aren't strangers to change. So we should be able to get through these holidays and into next year. And if you're in your determined shopper era, buy a Stuffy. adults or children. They're great. You can still get them if
Yeah.
you Google Stuffy. So
Yeah.
thank you, Kyle, for joining us today. It was great to have
Thank you, Kyle.
That was a
Yes.
pleasure. Thanks.
Great.
Thanks.
Great data.
We'll wrap it up there. That's it for this episode of The Marketing Architects. We'd like to thank Ayana Claphockey for producing the show and Michael Hingle for editing. You can connect with us on LinkedIn, and if you find our show valuable, please leave us a rating and review. Now go forth and build great marketing.